There are many claims on finding Atlantis, but not one to date has ever proven the canals and the island existence. Historians have looked at every claim and walked away shaking their heads. I believe I found that claim. I found it before the year 2000, in fact. That's how long ago it was. But the time has come now to launch it, because there are many theories that are releasing that will cover some of these aspects as well. So it is kind of a race to get it shown in public, I guess. This is an artifact that's been found in the area. You can see the canal entrance and the canals. That's pretty much what we're seeing here. But what we should really be looking at, the whole size of Atlantis. We should be looking at this size, because Plato also spoke about 7 islands called the Pleiades. It's pretty amazing, and that is the position I'm going to prove as well from geological proof. This part is still under the sea. This part is exposed on the land and flattened completely from the flood. There's also an alien geoglyph planted right in the middle of this ruin. I think the ancient ancestors, our ancestors, are saying this is what this place means. And there's a message encrypted in it as well, which I've decoded. And what you'll see when the message is decoded will actually awaken a few minds. It's 3 miles wide. And they actually form by punching these indentations into the ground. This is a mirror image, one of the other. And the message is using these other ellipses down here. When we recall Atlantis, we're going through Plato's claim of Atlantis. So what I'm proving is exactly what Plato has mentioned. Every single thing fits in this ancient site. You'd expect to see old ruins, but there's nothing left except base ruins because of the flood. This is not Atlantis. The Richard impact site in Sahara is now the latest chaos claim of being Atlantis. This is an impact site, just like the one on the moon. That one is on the moon. That is one on Mars. Impacts into an Earth, a molten planet forming, call it a lava pit, would make that pattern. So these were formed when the planet was still a big lava mass. I'm Wayne Herschel. This is my testimony is based from 1998 onwards, and you'll see how it has evolved. The first person to be credited with this general area is E.M. Whitshaw in 1925, and I'm going to be referring to that person as a credit reference. In 2003, I had a computer hack. I'm basically going to read what happened here. It was an advanced Trojan. They had remote access and email access. File copies were sending to and fro. The files that were loading on my computer were monitoring files that give remote access to my files. And online I was speaking to people in the United States about a film situation, filming this detail. My computer needed a reformat after that. My satellite images of Donana that I had saved separately were not on that file, but the general story was on that file. So everything that proves it was not luckily on this computer. A year later, 2004, let's call it a coincidence and credit the finders, because perhaps they found it on their own right. It's just a coincidence. I lost all my files at that time as well. But there was a Dr. Rainier Kuhern that made the Atlantis claim, but didn't show the canals or how the island was lost. In fact, I'll even quote, we have in the photos concentric rings just as Plato described. And what you see that he presented were these rings. That's exactly in the right place in Donana, in Spain. But by drawing lines like that, the first historians to go back in there and look for them did relief measurements and came out with nothing. There's absolutely nothing that looks like that now. So then what happened? Where is the truth here? How do we prove any circles if they don't seem to exist? You'll see how we can prove there is something there. A documentary followed on National Geographic, and that area was kind of transformed into this shape, probably to justify the Pleiades Islands, but there's nothing there. There's nothing that fits geologically with that. Okay, in 2011, the story revamped again. More researchers, more claims, more documentaries, but still no solid proof of how the island was an island and how it changed to where it is now and where these canals exist or not. Funny enough, when I was word searching this information, I wasn't. I was obviously being hacked. There were people on board with my computer as well. And when you search for sensitive material, in this case, it was the Danana area, I get a warning by Google. And what they say is quite ridiculous. This page appears when Google automatically detects requests coming in from your computer network, which appear to be in violation of the terms of service. Really, looking for images of Danana. Go figure that one. I did a talk after all this happened, just to make it an official public launch of the findings, and this documentary is basically that with a few updates that I'm showing right now. This was done in Cape Town in 2013. Obviously crediting this author as the finder of the basic area, as they were first to document a book on it. In my book that was published in 2003, I just did a little sneak thumbnail picture on page 288 to show that I knew where Atlantis was. So if there's any queries about, I'm just copying somebody else, you have to go back to 2003 and look on page 288 of my book when it was launched. The area of Chipiona, not sure on the pronunciation, in Spain. Right over here is Danana. This is the area. This is the entrance to the area that was once Atlantis. We need to look at how we prove this island to start with, and it involves a whole new theory on plate tectonics and impact events. I want to verify that this event that ended Atlantis was the driest impact event 12,000 years ago by probably a 100 kilometer wide meteor impact. This is the hypothesis that is on Wikipedia that verifies the impact event that did it, especially from all the fragments that have been found in that area. You can come back and look at this with pause later. I'm going to start with what caused these big fragments in the space area around Earth, Mars, Venus, the whole area that ended civilizations in our solar system around about 12,000 years ago. I'm taking the Sitchin claiming of a planetary collision, Marduk and Tiamat colliding. I partially agree with a lot of that there. Something happened around about 12,000 years ago that created a debris field that became the asteroid belt. I believe that Mars was once Earth-like, and Venus. And perhaps even these two out here, which was another moon and another perhaps habitable planet that would only be habitable on its equator because it is pretty far out from the sun. So let's just quickly recap. So that little moon that's here, Tiamat, was probably pulled from Jupiter's gravity. Each time Jupiter with Saturn aligning would tug on this little orbit around Marduk. And over time, it looks like this moon of this planet here, where the asteroid belt has lost its moon. And the moon tracked around the sun over many thousands of years, came back, and the inevitable happened. This is what caused the asteroid belt. But look what happened to Mars, Venus. They were once like that. I believe Earth was on the other side of the sun at the time, otherwise we would have been totally destroyed and be a planet that looks like these other two, totally impacted and destroyed. Meteorite impacts, many have been seen in the past that bounced off our atmosphere that were really big, but we're really overdue for a very big impact, and let's just hope we don't have anything coming too soon, as prophecies suggest. But let's look at a very large impact event that ended Mars. A meteor so massive that even when it makes contact, most of it is still outside the atmosphere. It would look something like that. And here it comes. This is a Mars reenactment impact. Now what happens is this fragment just keeps going through the planet, nearly pushes out the other side. Big crack in the planet and volcanoes forming. all the oceans would be flowing because it's moving down. The oceans like to stay still, so the oceans move towards the impact area and evaporate. And that's what you're left with. Impact area, fragments falling back, and volcanoes and a crack on the other side. That's exactly how Mars looks today. Many researchers have said this, and I'm just repeating basically what many have written about. Graham Hancock was one of them. There's the impact event, the Hellas Basin area on one side of the planet. This is on the other side of the planet. There are those volcanoes and the crack. Now, I'm introducing a new theory, which I'm calling planet crust displacement hypothesis. Large impact events have the ability to lift the crust of a planet up and cause oceans to flow away from it and cause land masses to slide on the magma. Something like this. Impact. And then it lifts up the crust just like that. And that is a city being flooded there. So imagine if that was Atlantis. What will happen is the sea would just be running down first. If it's very far away, I've made it close for the graphic. Imagine if it's further away, you'd first just see the ocean rising and flooding. And then, of course, volcanic debris, which Plato recorded. But this slide down of a crust along this molten area, it would be quite simple if it's slightly downhill and you have a pressure force exerted on these areas here as well. When that happened 12,000 years ago, mammals were pretty much flourishing on the planet. But before mammals flourished, that was the end of the dinosaur age. I believe an impact started the dinosaur impact area 245 million years ago. An impact probably made life conditions right on the earth for life, and of course the dinosaurs ruled. Another one ended at 65 million years ago, and I believe the one that ended the ice age basically started the human era. It flourished right about 10,000 years ago in a big way. Charles Hapgood is also one to explain fast plate movement, and I'm totally behind the Hapgood theory. And it basically could happen from a meteorite impact at a very low angle to cause even precession, the wobble that the Earth is still recoiling with today. These are my old graphics, 1990s. I went into an atlas and looked at the map of Africa and noticed how amazing the pattern fits together. This is all old news. We know that they once were joined together, part of the Pangaea continent. But what I noticed was there's like a slide moment down here. This is probably a fragment that moved down when these all separated. But there's a secondary slide moment over here to there. That little bit of movement there, we're going to be looking at. And what caused it to move there, because it has a different angle of angular movement, whereas these move this way, and obviously that moves out from there. But this moved in this direction after it had been here for a very long while. I was watching National Geographic probably around about 2002, and they had a Pangaea documentary, and they're showing basically this that I'm recreating. I've done my own graphics, but my theory is that something has to force these to move apart. And National Geographic showed this. I was absolutely amazed. How can they show a documentary like this, see this, and not query, could this be Atlantis? The main reason is obviously they think it happened millions of years ago. But something would have to separate a landmass. It doesn't just jump apart. It's like a force needs to be applied on it. The funny thing is their documentary didn't really verify what really appears today in the area of North and South America. It doesn't look anything like that, does it? It looks more like that, and you can make it by making lots of little holes in it. And that is the clue. Something happened here. I think this is an impact event site, because that's what it looks like today. Look at these curve marks. There's one that's got a big fault line through the middle. There's another one here. Let me just rather show with a graphic. What are the chances? Is this true? You can even see part of impact crater rims here. This one here is all pushed in. That one's pushed down. Well, we have to wait and see on that one. And if that really happened, impact events moving continents, it would look something like that. Very fast moving, a crack in the Earth's crust, starting off very fast and then moving to about that position and then going slow after that. That's what it would look like on a planet. And then from that point onward, it would move slowly with momentum. I want to look at elongated craters. This is one on Mars because this shows a low impact event. We need to look on Earth for a low angled impact event, because if it was a round crater, it would have been found very quickly, wouldn't it? But something like this, you wouldn't expect an impact to be a part of it. And there it is, right above the North Pole, near the Lomonosov Ridge. That's that area there. I believe an impact event took place here and went right beneath the crust under Greenland. These are my old graphics from the 90s, looking at an atlas. You can see the Lomonosov Ridge here. I don't think it formed Greenland, because Greenland probably existed long before that, but I think it distorted the shape of Greenland. The impact event that ended the Ice Age, there it is, coming into the North Pole. There's a very green Africa here, and there's Atlantis. The flood, look how it washes through Africa. There's where Atlantis is. If you look at Sahara, you should see evidence of such a flood if it's only 10,000 years ago. And I believe geologists have missed it here. Those that study weather have claimed that these are wind marks from the sand blowing around, but you need to look a lot closer. This is enhanced, old graphics, from the 1990s. I'm going to go close in this area. That's the flow pattern, and then it washed off the continent again. So it was a green Africa, big flood comes in, and it washes off in that direction. These are the flow lines, but look over here. Winds do not make those patterns. These are massive flooding. That's where the pyramids are. There's the kink in the Nile. Getting a bit closer in. Look at these areas. Look at these areas. These are all floodplains. All of these lines I'm proposing are floodplains, where ground soils are actually pushed for miles and miles. Many different angles all the way through here. The whole of the Sahara is a photograph of the flood. In my opinion, that is my theory. Now, proof of the lost island continent of Atlantis. How do we prove it? That's what the ocean floor looks like where Atlantis once sat before 12,000 years ago, before the impact event. And it was surrounded by sea before it crashed into Europe. It would have been the perfect place, fed by warm currents at the end of an ice age. They could control all the animals, take away the predators, the flesh-eating predators. They would control an island and make it exactly what they want. It would look like that. This is my 1997 image, just like I've shown in my book on page 288. And Italy would have crashed into the Europe continent with this event as well, so it would have been an island as well. You know, there's a big mountain range where that pushed into Europe. The legends of Atlantis, they show it like this. There's Spain, Africa, and America, and that's the whole problem. Take that away. This was Spain and Portugal right here before it moved. This is the only map that shows Atlantis. Look very carefully here. There it is right there, and Europe is shown like that. It shows Atlantis. Look at that. That's amazing. Let's now look for those canals as well. And these islands. How do we prove all this? In 1979, a researcher of the Timaeus and the Critias account of Plato, it actually records islands next to Atlantis, called the Pleiades. But the recreation put Atlantis on the wrong side. You need the warm current feeding it. That would be less habitable just after the Ice Age. This is the warm area right here. And that's the area down here where we're talking about. Now, I want to just quickly show this is a secondary possibility for an impact site. If the North Pole is not the right one, there's another one down here, but this is of a lower intensity, and I don't think it's strong enough to go underneath and push Atlantis along. I still stick to the North Pole theory with an elongated crater at the top there, but there is another one down here. That's just worth mentioning at this stage. But that's what's important. This is where I found it. While I was looking for that, I noticed that the 7 islands are still sitting out there in the Atlantic. There's the area that fits into that part of the puzzle before it moved. And the Pleiades Islands were down here. They're the exact shape of the Pleiades. There's no doubt about it. That's pretty amazing. Now the area where Atlantis is, this whole area as well fits Plato's account of a rectangular flat valley area. And there were mines in this area as well, which I'm going to show now, the Rio Tinto mines. That was documented in the 1925 account as being part of Atlantis. But the author didn't explain why this was once an island continent. The Pyrenees obviously formed when the landmass pushed into Europe. So that's pretty obvious there. And the warm Gulf Stream would have been perfect just after the Ice Age in this area here. Would have been perfect for habitation. But when this whole area was over here, Atlantis would have been here right in line with the Pleiades Islands. This is an artifact that is found in Israel, but it's also found throughout Europe. It shows a bull deity as Orion with a sword. Remember, Orion has got a sword, but he shows the sword as being the way shower in a different way to the exit marks the spot, like a big lance. I'll show you how it evolves. So if this is an artifact found in Israel, this is found in the Andalusia area. There are many of these ancient records of Atlantis. Many researchers have brought them to the front. This is possibly the canal going into the middle of it. And there's a man with this weird sword thing. Can't see very much in this one. There's another one. Compared to that artifact, there's that sword facing down as Orion. Orion showing the way to the star. Orion is also used as well as the Pleiades in my star map theory, which I'll show just now. And there's those same indents where the canals go in to the main part in the middle of the island. There are 2 others. There's that sword that goes with the man and the lance that followed thereafter. It was in my research with Egypt that shows Orion man with a lance showing the way, not a sword. And here's another one with the sword, and of course both of them have Atlantis. There's an H symbol, and people will know from my work with the Dogon tribe, the H symbol represents Orion, just like at Göbekli Tepe. Also used as a star map to find the exit marks, the spot on the ground. All these ancient sites revered the star map, in my opinion. North of the area that I claim is also Atlantis, as per other researchers, I'd say exactly north by about 100 kilometers, the Cancho Roano ruins. These are megalithic ruins. And of course, what's inside this ruin Mark Scott found? The Omega symbol. If Atlantis is real, if this whole story is real, our ancients came from a very far away place using a stargate. This is the symbol for the stargate in my latest work, the Alpha Omega symbol. And the Alpha representing Taurus and the Omega being the gate. It shows 2 things in one message. In Israel, they have these in the same temples, in the first temples as well. Usually in tombs, the deceased head is put in this position, in between the Omega stargate. Literally, the soul being able to traverse heavens back to where they came from. In the Indus civilization, they show the Omega symbol with an entity passing through it. Sumerian, Omega symbol, near Pleiades, cosmic serpents. These are these plasma ribbons that these Omega stargates use, in my opinion. And of course, the Maya document, that's a big breakthrough in my latest work that is now available. The Mayans show the actual stargate and the cosmic serpent active with it, and the Pleiades and everything. But there's one more piece. The Egyptians showing the Shen as the gate itself, and an entity traversing through it to the place of 3 suns, the same as the Sumerian depiction of 3 suns. That's the book and the countdown to this event of the stargate being known. And I think first contact is pretty much 2018, according to my latest research, which I'm going to explore right here. Proof of canals. Let's prove those canals once and for all. Nobody has done this yet, in my opinion. I haven't heard of it yet. If you look at the river, it's the Guadalquivir. I think that's the pronunciation, Guadalquivir River. This is the Donana Park, and this is the opening mouth of the Guadalquivir River. The alien geoglyphs are right there. We're going to look at those. Look at the size of these. That's 4 miles long there. Sorry, 4 kilometers long there. Now, looking closely at those rivers, watch very closely. Why am I making this distortion? Because this whole continent has shifted. The plates have distorted. Floods have flooded over it. Silts have washed into the basins. In case you missed it, that's all we've got today is that. Those are the rivers. You can see there's this little bit of a remains of the inner circle, and there's the outer circle going that way. Do it again. Going back in time, it would have possibly been like that. So there, in my opinion, is a proof of the canals once and for all. So what we have is Atlantis down here, and the Pleiades Islands in that position. That is the exact star map that is replicated all over the world. The place of our ancestors from a sun-like star near the Pleiades that correlate with these land masses. Stonehenge has the same circumpoint layout, just like Atlantis. And of course 7 mounds near it, also for the Pleiades, for the Stonehenge star map. Right, now this is the third big proof of alien visitation and a decoded message. Looking in that area, right there. The size of this is absolutely mind-blowing. This occurred somewhere around 2011, just before 2011. Just before it, Google Earth showed nothing, but the 2011 Google Earth image showed this remarkable thing. With all the researchers that I contacted with it, we weren't sure if this was some kind of weird kind of salt pan design that was an artistic attempt, but then we started realizing these are indents. They hold water when it floods. Nobody can do that. You can't bring heavy earth moving equipment into there without making really big roads and tracks. And I believe there are 2 patterns here. This one here with that little piece is a mirror image of this one here with that little piece. And I'll show you what I think these mean. They're also placed in a very interesting area that was marked out into these properties. And I think advanced visitors that came down here thought they could place a message using this grid pattern, using a universal code of numbers and a pattern that we should know very well from human history. Let's have a close-up look at these geoglyphs. That one is important. When a line goes straight through the middle of it, it's on this grid, it is going to be highlighted. That one is not in the middle. So we're looking at all the portions that have a line going right through the middle. This is the other one. More recent images of it. This is a road for a vehicle that came and inspected it. Look at this. That is the size of a vehicle's width of the between the wheels. That's amazing. This is huge. These are like trees around here that are shrubs really growing. They're not trees yet, obviously. This is an area that's totally swamp and flat. But what you're having is this water buildup in these indentations that are depressed into the land. Perfect ellipses. You can't draw an ellipse very easily. It's very difficult. Four at the bottom, 2 in the middle, and the mirror pattern at the top. There's a whole theme happening here. Let's look closely at it. Just enhance it. Those are the symbols. From my work, people that have followed my work many years ago, Martin Molnagob decoded the symbol, that's this area here, as a map of the Taurus head. There's the horns, the face, the bullseye, and a planet and its sun. That's exactly the star map. shown by the ancient Hindus and the Indus civilization. I added to it, finding this one that showed the Orion mark of going through the bullseye area to find it. And this has to be Orion, just like that. The 4 outer stars, as you see here, are shown in between these very unusual patterns. We'll look at it a bit closely in a few minutes. There is the X that marks the spot, right there, through the bullseye, following Orion's belt. In other places around the world, this is one in Italy, and there's another one exactly the same in the United Kingdom. Show the swastika with those same 4 dots positioned, and the X that marks the spot right there, just like the Indus civilization map. That part and that part without the bull is being shown right here. It's just using Orion showing the way to the X that marks the spot. The sun-like star as a circumpunct. Right, so it's Orion and the swastika. I've basically shown you that pattern where the 4 stars make up those 4 dots in between these 4 gaps in the swastika. And there is what we have on Atlantis. The swastika, Orion, the outer 4 dots, the X that marks the spot. Just like this. Recently, this large deep space object, which scientists have also proven comes from the Pleiades area. I have the papers referenced on my website. And the latest paper just last week has shown that this is an alien probe object. It can't possibly accelerate like it did. Astronomers saw it accelerate. The amount of mass, if it were just a comet, for it to suddenly accelerate would show a huge vapor trail, and it could never accelerate with a megaton type force energy, which we've calculated, and the paper shows the amount of energy to move it where it went to is impossible. It had to be alien. Now, does that message show this, and it's already been and gone with no big importance, or do you think there's something more to happen in this year? I think it's the latter. There's artifacts that show a Mau, in my opinion. This particular one is a Sumerian artifact that I explain how it works with a stargate. It shows it here, and a cosmic serpent conduit connecting to the back of the bull. This is where the Pleiades are found, on the back of the bull. And it looks like a leg shape, and you can see the leg shape there. It's showing that. And I think this is possibly going to happen very shortly. The way Orion is shown as 4 dots as well, not just the swastika. This is the Inga site in Brazil. There's the Pleiades, sun-like star, 3rd one, and the portal. And that, I believe, is Orion showing the way. So it's a symbol that is used quite often with the 4 dots. I'm showing with hand symbols here with the stars how the ancients, long before the Christ era, the Christ used this symbol as well to point to the solar trinity. That is them there. And the 3 of Orion. Following normal tradition, the cross of Orion I propose is this area here between Aldebaran, Sirius, Betelgeuse and Rigel. This is the Christian way of doing it. Now we've seen the Indus and Hindu ancient swastika usage. Let's look at it in the second way. There it is there. They're the 4 dots that fill in those gaps. There's the X that marks the spot. Does it look familiar? It's identical to the alien message at the Atlantis site in the Donana Reserve. Just showing a couple of my star maps, Pleiades, those 3 sun-like stars. That's a really big part of my research, and it's covered in my new DVD and book detail. There are the 7 mounds near Stonehenge, just like Atlantis had, showing the position of this most important Sol 1 primary, the place of our ancestors. It's on Mars. Look at these pyramid ruins. There's a massive pyramid ruin there, and the Mars face. Could it be more obvious? What kind of correlation is this where everything fits? Large stars, large monuments, even these small ones. Look at them. It's ridiculous. My theory has been laughed at and been under attack, and I'm still unrecognized due to that. This is a real historical detail. Now, where is Orion on Mars? You need to look a little bit harder. What we're going to do is take that template and compare it on Mars. Now look very carefully at how the rebuild would have looked. It would have been an ocean surrounding port. This is the edge of what is also recognized on Mars as being an old ocean bed. Look at this line here. Now I'm going to zoom out. Watch very carefully. There's that line, okay? That line, Pleiades, right there. There's something here. Can you see it? Can you see the face of a lion? A tail? There are many ancient sites that show the star map over and over again, but it's not part of this lecture. Here is Orion's belt on the back of the lion, the cosmic lion, the stargate, mouth opening to another very important star. This is where humans evolved from. This is where humans colonized as a star map. That star map there, Sol 1, Pleiades. Sol 2 was where humans evolved. Sol 1 is the one where we flourished, where the people that colonized Mars came from. This one here. All the records highlight this one as the most important on Earth. That's what it once would have looked like. There's Orion's belt. This is an Indus seal. There's the cosmic lion, Pleiades by its mouth, 3 stars of a lion on the back of the lion. There are many artifacts that show it. I just want to quickly touch over the breaking detail proving the Stargate from a Maya codex. That's part of my other lecture. Sapienta, the T for Tau Taurus. Homo sapiens, origins, pointing through to the gate. 3 suns are in this picture. This is an enlargement here from the sacred feminine pointing back at the Christ with 3 suns on his shoulder. It's all in my book and it's available at Amazon. The DVD has just come out as well. You can order it from hiddenrecords.com. Music is by Kevin Kendall. I hope you enjoyed it.